Hi, everyone. I just wanted to thank everyone so much for joining us today while we're trying to figure out what's happening and what to do daily. Heather Elder brought this idea to us last week, and Workbook is thrilled to partner with her and host this webinar. I want to just make it clear that we are planning to continue them. It's going to be an ongoing series, so hoping that you will continue to listen. And please know if we don't get to your questions today, we will be getting to your questions. We want to continue this conversation. It's super important right now for us all to stay connected, and we are committed to doing that. So if your question isn't answered today, it's not because we don't think it's important. It's just because we had to break down into certain topics just to figure out what to cover today, and continue to reach out to me and to answer, you know, the emails that'll be going out in this regard, because this is going to be ongoing. Also, after the webinar today, you will receive an email with resources that are probably going to be mentioned, specifically from the panelists. So look for that in the next 24 hours. I believe it goes out 24 hours after the broadcast with a downloadable link for you to be able to listen to this again, should you want to. And then I guess I would just love to jump into our conversations. It's my pleasure to introduce Wendy Gordon, executive producer and owner of Work Productions. Work Productions produces motion and still campaigns both for the agency and creative side of the business. Last week, she started a Facebook group to bring together agency and creative producers, artists, reps, and photographers to provide a forum to discuss the logistical, health, legal, and financial issues that our community is facing during the coronavirus outbreak. We also have Kourtney Sellers. Kourtney is a photographer, mama, and a maker of things. Her specialty is photographing kids in high energy, spontaneous, and joyful situations. As a board member of APA Chicago chapter, she is helping roll out a program called Stay Connected in the hope of keeping members inspired and encouraged during these challenging times. Next up is Dawn Kleidon. Dawn, I checked on how to pronounce your name. I hope I did that correctly. VP, Executive Art Producer at FCB. Dawn has been a producer for 20 years, and every one of those years has been at FCB. She grew up at this agency and in this industry. She works from home full time and travels the country and the world shooting amazing campaigns with inspiring photographers, and does all of this while raising four kids. So she works more than full time and is most proud that in all of this, she hardly misses a game or an important event in one of her four kids' lives. Her favorite color is orange. She grew up in a beach community in Brooklyn no one has ever really heard of, and now hopes she represents what it is to be a kind, hardworking, fair human. Heather Elder, last but not least, has been an agent for over 20 years. She hosts the Dear Art Producer podcast, which we're partnering with. Thank you so much, Heather. Writes a blog about the industry and hosts a site for freelance art producers. Mostly though, she is always thinking ahead, and what better time to do that than right now. For me, I am with Workbook. I love working for Workbook, and I've been there for about 5 years. I like karaoke, karate, lilacs, watching my kids play anything, my husband of 32 years, potatoes, my Christmas tree, and big dogs. So let's kind of get this thing rolling. We are sort of in the State of the Union section of the program. Many cities are on lockdown, some may be quarantined. We have a civic responsibility to social distance and help flatten the curve. Many in the industry are advocating for a moratorium on production as the situation and guidelines change by the day. Our clients need changing from immediate to midterm and long term. We're going to break this part down into short term. What can we create for our clients now? Scrambling, halting production, stock usage, illustration, CGI. I'd love for you to start this off, Heather, because you broke this part down so nicely.
Sure. I think it's helpful to think about where we were last week first. You know, this all hit us so hard and so fast. And we went from immediate scramble. What do we do now to help our clients who can't get on an airplane, who have restricted travel from their clients, What could we do at that point? Well, at that point, we were scrambling. We were trying to put together crews for last minute shoots or trying to live stream event shoots and anything we could do to help the clients get it done. I think it quickly changed to now what are we doing? And we're really trying to practice civic responsibility. We're trying very hard not to shoot. And the messaging being halt all productions and stop for the sake of everybody's health, of our crew and our, ourselves and our clients and their agencies.
So sorry. I'm hearing that people cannot get into the room. Jim, I know that you're there. If anyone is listening, Jim is our tech guy. Jim, what would you like to tell us to do to proceed here so that people can have access? We're getting texts that people are not in, a lot of messages that people cannot get into this space.
Well, I'm doing what I can to see if I can increase capacity of the webinar. But in the meantime, I think you guys should just continue on and hopefully we'll be able to get more people to add here shortly. I'm working on it.
And it'll be recorded, correct?
Okay.
That's true, yeah, there will be a recording.
I'm seeing it says 96 attendees, 6 staff, and a 500 max. Do you think jumping off and jumping back in might help all of this, or do we just want to continue?
I think we should just continue and we'll make sure that everybody gets the recording afterwards.
Okay. I'm so sorry, Heather. I can't even imagine how to get you to come back into that minute.
Fine. I'll just, in summary, I was just talking about how what we started with last week is incredibly different than what we're dealing with this week. And I think the idea of civic responsibility and not shooting and halting all production is probably something Wendy could speak to more eloquently than I can.
Thanks,
that's
Heather.
where we are. I feel like that's where we are right this second.
So I think as this started, we were all interested in trying to find ways to continue shooting. And I think as recent days have shown us, there is no such thing as a safe set unless you are shooting by yourself. As a producer, I think that one of my major responsibilities is to safeguard my crew and my talent and my clients. And I have no ability to buy safety equipment. I have no way to keep a set clean. And I'm of the opinion there is no such thing as a safe set. And as such, I think that we have a moral responsibility, a civic responsibility, and a health responsibility to shut down until we can do this safely. There's maybe one exception, and one of my clients suggested this. He has a full-time studio staff that's been quarantined, self-quarantined for the last 14 days. They have a shoot next week. They will leave their house, they will go to work, they will come back home, they will quarantine again. That's the only situation I can imagine. And until such a time, I hope that our clients will understand. I hope we keep estimating. I hope we get everything in a pipeline ready to go, but I can't keep anyone safe. So I don't think we can shoot.
Kourtney, do you want to?
Along those lines, the photographers that do have studios that they live in, if they're there and they can shoot something on their own safely, that is an option.
Yeah, I can chime in there. Absolutely. And I've been talking with photographers this week. We've got cameras, we've got talent that we're living with. If there's something that we can make happen, we're willing to make it happen. I think it's just about all staying together, staying connected, and seeing what might come up on clients' radars and going from there. But I agree with Wendy. I mean, I was in the middle of a shoot last week on production, and things, like you ladies already said, were changing so rapidly, and the information was different across various states because everybody's governors were giving different information on how to handle the situation. And for my client, we had clients literally in 3 different states. So, people didn't all have the information. So when we woke up last Friday morning in Illinois, we were still trying to make our shoot happen for Monday and Tuesday. First thing my producer and my agent and I did, we got on the phone, and the conversation has started about how are we going to keep this shoot safe. And we had all these great ideas, air filters and whatnot. But by the end of that conversation, we're like, Wendy said, we have no way to guarantee anyone's safety. So from there, not to mention, as we're having the conversation, all of our kids' schools were getting canceled in like real time. And we're like, they're canceling schools. We're supposed to be photographing kids. Second point, this is not good. We should not be shooting. And then, or it doesn't make sense to be shooting, right? And so then the third thing was just from the PR perspective, that doesn't look good either. So we got on the call with our client and we just told them what we knew in the facts, and we asked them to have a chat with their client, and by the end of the day, done, canceled. They canceled it. But yeah, I think it's time to get creative. We're all problem solvers. Let's keep things going, like Wendy said. Let's keep the estimates rolling, and we all want to get back to work as soon as possible. Staying low and at our homes is going to be a good way to make that happen sooner rather than later. And I think we have to work, think about our healthcare professionals and all of this. They're the ones that are going to keep us safe at the end of the day. If we can't keep them safe, then, no.
Dawn, what are you hearing from your client's perspective right now?
Well, we're still like trying to stay positive and just keep the estimates, we're estimating right now, keep the estimates going with like a positive outlook that when this does come to a end, and I know that we all don't know when that's going to happen, that we can resume. And how we resume, I think, is the big issue, right? Like, how do we cast? And I think the studios and the shooting people at home is great if that's what your shoot allows for. I mean, a lot of the shoots that I do we've been testing for 6 to 12 months of like what concept is winning. So we have a winning concept now, and it's hard to kind of go backwards, right? So if we have a lifestyle photo shoot that's happening outside on location right now, we don't know if that's going to be a 4-week, delay, a 6-week delay, an 8-week delay. So I think we're just proceeding and asking everyone to please be patient and postpone, and let's just stay positive, but also be smart. I agree with all of you. I don't think we could put anyone at risk. I have 4 kids. I don't want to go stand on a set and, God forbid, get one of my diabetic child sick who can, is one of the underlying things. But we're trying to all just move things along. And I don't know if it's like a false hope that this is going to end sooner than later, but I think at least it keeps us all busy and positively thinking in this crazy time as we sit in our houses and stare at the same people for 12 hours.
Go ahead, Heather.
No, go ahead.
I would just like to add something. I think that, we're trying so hard to find a safe way around this, whether it's a small crew or a reduced crew. And there are alarming things for me that go to safety, which is that the virus can live on clothing, it can live on plastic, it can live on metal. And I just can't imagine any way to keep a wardrobe stylist safe, or talent, or hair and makeup. Are they going to buy new brushes and new makeup every single time? And I think we need to be really cautious right now about trying to sort of get around being safe, because I don't think there's enough information yet. And so I've heard some people say, let's try it with a reduced crew, or is it okay if we're outdoors? And I think that the answers for now need to be no. And I think that if we as a community do our part and stay home and get creative and work on what's coming down the pipeline, I think we'll all be back to work sooner. Maybe that's too hopeful, but
Well,
I
we're
really
a group
believe
of
it.
people who are not used to ever saying no. We're resourceful. Our jobs are literally to make our, meet our clients' challenges, come up with creative solutions to do that. And so it makes sense that our first reaction is, how can I get this done? How can I work around this? I have been noticing a trend, and I'm talking to so many different types of people in all different parts of this business. And now I am sensing this very important shift of people thinking, okay, we're in this. We can't change this. We can't control this. What are we going to do now? And I think that's kind of where the next step is. What do we do during this time so that we can prepare for what is coming? I had a conversation with somebody the other day, and I brought up this idea that it's going to be like the week before Christmas, and everybody wants to book that last week because they've got to get one more shoot in. I do think when we come back, whatever that is, I don't know what our reality will look like, but there is going to be a time that we're going to go back out there and do something. And we need to use this time now to prepare so that we're ready to go when we get the green light. And we might have to adjust and figure out what those shoots are going to look like then. But I think we've got a pause button here, a time that we can actually reflect on our processes, our creativity, how we create things, what we're going to do, and just use that time to figure it out.
I think that's really important. I wanted to just say, if anyone can hear us, people are doing a call-in scenario now. Not sure if that affects anybody who can actually hear us right now, but if you guys are getting messages from anyone asking, how do I get in? How do I get in? Have them try the call-in option that that now is, they're not necessarily able to ask questions, but they can hear it. So for anyone who is texting you or asking right now, I think that Heather brings up a really good point, and it's really about the marketing and things like that that we can do in the next area. But I'd love to finish up some of the questions in this topic. What segments of the economy recover the fastest and need media services? Do any of us really know the answer to that question? Maybe Dawn might be a good place to start with this.
Can you say that again? There was a really loud ding.
Okay, so what segments of the economy do you think are going to recover fastest and need media services? I think from the buyer's perspective, that's interesting. Obviously, you can only speak to your company, and then maybe I'd ask, everyone else to chime in on that thought.
I mean, well, I think what Heather just touched on is that we're all preparing to, there's eight people in my department doing exactly what I do, and we're all bidding right now. Some of us are working on CGI projects, some of us are doing illustration, we're still buying stock, we're renegotiating talent, but a handful of us, a good portion of us, are still estimating. So we're kind of under the same like mind that Heather just said, is that we're just staying positive that we're going to be ready to go once this all turns around. So what side of the economy? I'm hoping that this all happens like simultaneously. I think no one can predict what's going to happen, but we're hoping that this clears and slowly people can spend 4 to 6 weeks producing the job correctly once we get the okay that it's safe to do so.
Kourtney, did you have any thoughts on that?
I agree with Dawn.
I'd like to add a couple of things to that. I think, in terms of what kind of areas recover the fastest, I can't answer that. I have no idea. I think, I know that my husband is at an ad agency, and everything that they're talking about is how to help their clients now prepare for what they're going to need in the future. I'm sure there's going to be areas with people who hold back and don't want to advertise, and they, keep that money close at hand. But there's going to be brands that recognize that your voice is louder in a time like this. And if you have appropriate messaging and you have appropriate people to target and sell to, then yeah, they're going to need to message now. And when we get through this, they're going to need to do the same thing. So I think going from a reactive place where we all were last week, and we are still kind of right now, a proactive spot, I think we need to do that. We need to push ourselves in that direction.
Do you have anything to add, Wendy, on that?
No, I mean, far be it for me to know which segment of the economy bounces back first, but I would imagine there's one of two things that's going to happen. Either we're going to have a backlog that is enormous. I'm sorry, this is New York and fire engines going by. And we'll have, with any real luck, we'll have a huge backlog. Or we may have a different way of having to handle marketing, because clients will also need to recover economically. I think common wisdom is usually when business is bad, people tend to advertise. Far be it for me to really know that, but we've weathered things like this, not like this, but we've weathered ups and downs over many decades of seeing changes in the industry. And there's some kind of saying that the advertising industry is like 6 months ahead of the rest of the economy. So I don't know. I mean, I'm really hopeful that this is a pause, but I can't be strong enough in my opinion that it needs to be a complete pause. No end games around it, no trying to figure out how to minimize risk. I think it's kind of a zero-sum game. There's nothing safe right this minute. So, I think we're gonna be back full steam soon-ish. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I think it's both, right? It's some will recover quickly, some will recover slowly. I agree, and there's always a need for marketers. There was that wonderful article this week about specifically that. Okay, so I feel like this portion is almost wrapped up, but do you feel like everyone is getting on the same page? I know we discussed it earlier, but that everyone is really understanding the gravity of the situation. Like it's really hitting home for the universe now that we're having these lockdowns in every major city in this country at this point.
40% of the United States population lives in a city that's locked down right now. New York is about to lock down. Chicago, Illinois is about to lock down. California is. This is a matter of time. And it's not lockdown, let's be clear. We
Right.
can still go do stuff. We're just not supposed to gather. And there's no way to do what we do without gathering.
Sure. Of course. Okay, and then let's move on to the marketing element right now, because I think that this was the #1 question that we got when our participants registered. And specifically this quote, marketing during such obscure times makes me feel really guilty. I found that incredibly endearing way of asking this question. At this time, do you guys feel like there's do's and don'ts about how to reach out? And then I'll move on to the next portion of that. And about how are you continuing to market? And if so, what do you feel like is the appropriate message? I'd love, Heather, you sent out a beautiful email promo at the very beginning of this week, and I think you did it really well. So I would love for you to speak to that.
I've been thinking a lot about this, and I feel like, I don't know about anybody else out there, I cannot keep up with my emails right now. Everybody is emailing, every retail person, every photographer, every agency, everyone. I'm getting tons of emails. And I feel like if you're not going to have a solutions-based message right now, then you shouldn't be emailing. And there's a place for you to share your work. We've got Instagram, we've got Facebook. Share your work there. Have appropriate messaging there about, you've got plenty of your photographers, you have plenty of content. Take that content, repurpose it, put it out on social media with a very appropriate message. Then if you're going to email, don't email any new work that you've done or a campaign that you've worked on in a very salesy sort of way. If you have a solution, email that. Or email your clients and see how they're doing. See if they need any help. See if you can collaborate on any thinking that you have. But otherwise, from a global big picture marketing, I've got new work, see, isn't it pretty? I wouldn't do that, no.
Yeah, I think, Heather,
And
it's
I also
interesting to sort of line up maybe marketing campaigns for when things are a little bit better. But I think everybody is really concerned right now with things like, how does my grandma get food? How am I going to the supermarket? I've got to go deal with homeschooling. Like, people are still trying to stay connected, I think, to their jobs, but there's some real personal logistics we're all trying to figure out. And a cold call marketing, hey, I'm available for work kind of thing.
No.
I just don't really see myself responding to it right now because I don't have any work for anybody.
And
so,
right. And also, I got an email from one of my clients that was like, I have a studio, I work alone, how can I solve your problems? I'm a problem solver. I thought it was a really smart email. Dawn, I'd love to hear from you. Are you still receiving a lot of promo pieces from people, and are they on point with the message that we're discussing, or are they more a little tone deaf? I mean, not to say it's tone deaf, but you know what I mean.
I think it's both. I think I'm getting a ton of those emails now, and from photographers, CGI houses, reps saying, let us help you. We have people that have their own studios. We have CG people ready in their own homes and set up to work from home. And I think that's great. I do have people on my team actually taking advantage of that. Again, it's a small percentage. Like, we don't really shoot food. We shoot some products, but we don't really shoot food. So it kind of eliminates some of the stuff that we do, but some stuff is very appropriate. Like, if we can shift clients into using CG or going a CG route, then it works. I am still getting promos, and I'm not that offended by it. I actually love beautiful pictures, and I think, yes, I'm being flooded with emails. I think I'm working now, if not more than I was working 3 weeks ago, and which is a lot for me because I'm 60 hours a week easy. So it's been a little insane. I don't mind the emails. I think beautiful pictures are beautiful pictures, and right now it's kind of nice to see, like, you know, a picture of a horizon and a nice little thing, you know, that we'll all get through it or whatever. I think, yes, 40% of this nation is still on lockdown, but I'm still seeing people spring breaking in Florida, right? So the smart side of me is like, how does this go away if everybody's not following protocol? And inevitably we could be like this for 6 weeks to 12 weeks, or, you know, whatever it is. So you know, I'm not offended by like pretty pictures that I'm getting, and I'm still getting them, and I am getting them the problem solvers, and I have my own studio and I do that. And I think it works great for some circumstances. Right now, we're not going to be testing shoots. We're not going to be going to, you know, to like our stuff we test, right? So they go to big panels and they're trying to figure out now how you test from home and how you do all those things. So I think right now we have to come up with creative solutions, because I even think if we go back to shooting in 6 to 8 weeks, we still have to be smart. My castings are from, you know, models between the ages of 45 and 75.
Yeah.
Like that's prime coronavirus, you know,
Yeah.
COVID-19, you know, death toll. So I think as a group, we're having statuses and we're coming up with creative things like, you know, could we issue phones to people? Could we do live castings? Could people send live pictures? Can we stream things? I think that's what's keeping us busy, is figuring out when we do this, how do we do this the right way and still the safest way possible? So,
And I
don't know
think
if
this
that
is a great
answers it.
time to create alliances and collaborations with casting directors and location scouts and start figuring out how are we going to move this industry forward in a way so that when we get to the next stage, this midterm stage, which is produce and protect, how are we going to be able to do that? It's not my words. Someone else gave that to me.
Yeah, but I can hear Kourtney, how are you handling this topic? Are you doing promos at this juncture, or are your work so?
So I usually do promos like every 3 months or so. And I probably should be doing one because the last one I did was in December. But you know, it's like I can't. I'm taking care of a 4-year-old, and what do I say? And I know I've got plenty of people that can help me and advise me on this, but it's just the topic is so sensitive. I mean, I think I do have some content that could relate beautifully to all the children that are stuck at home that have, you know, yards and sidewalks to play on, but it's just gonna take me a creative moment to get that all together. And this week wasn't the week, and maybe it will be next week or the week after, but definitely, you know, one thing as we're, you know, working on these stay connected groups is, you know, maybe it's not things that we're sending out via email, but it's like redoing the websites, you know, getting projects that we don't have edited so that we can, when it is appropriate to get them out, we can get them out and, you know, share them with the world.
I definitely think it's a time to get your stuff in order. You know,
Yeah.
in this industry where there's so little time to get our basics done, right? Our marketing plans, our promo pieces, our updating our websites, updating your work gallery.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, tagging your images, things like that. You know, I do think that that's a big thing that we can do right now. But I also think that, like, you know, I keep referring to Heather's email this week, which was, the subject line was brilliant. It was about social distancing and sanitizing Netflix. I thought that was really smart. And what about a theme-based email like social distancing, or clean products, or things like that. I've seen that done this week, and I feel like it's speaking to what your clients are looking for. If you think about your client list and you think about what solutions they need right now in the archives that you have and the imagery that you have, that's the message to stay connected. But I have to say, the nicest thing I heard from all of you answering this question was Heather saying, Heather, I think I'm just in love with you. I just got to keep mentioning you the whole time.
I love you too, Heidi.
No, but but asking them if they're okay. Like, I think
Yeah.
that's so human right now. I told you guys the story when we did the run through about how I went to the supermarket and I was so overwhelmed. I didn't even know what I needed. And I saw a bundle of kindling on the shelf and I bought it. I have a gas fireplace. I got it. My husband thinks I'm insane. And he's 100% right. We're all going through the different stages of all of this and the realization of, what are we supposed to be doing? And I won't go out of the house without a list anymore and things like that. But all of us are in different areas of this. And so I think that human kindness, which is, my favorite thing about humans, period, that we can all start to touch on that with all of us, that we're all in this together and that we're all struggling together. That human element, I think, if you're sending me an email, that's the good one to send.
I
Okay.
also think there is an opportunity for us to sort of get off our devices and call people and kind of reinforce relationships with people that we already have relationships with. So I love the idea of getting in touch with ex-clients or former clients, excuse me, and saying, I've got work from this, maybe this can help you, or just saying, what are you guys working on that maybe it's already created? And I think, sorry, I've got an echo. It's really hard to talk. And I think it's just really important to remember that we have an opportunity to check in on each other, but maintain our relationships and stop texting. Talk, call. It's lovely. People are lonely a little bit, so.
Not done.
I've been asking people to send me pictures of their dogs, and it's been great.
I have a new puppy, so you'll be like, Heidi, okay, stop. Okay, so let's just move on to the next question. In this same topic, do you think it's possible for creators to make messages about joyful times and not be seen as creepy or unfeeling or out of touch? I know that this is an extension of this last portion, but I think it's a really fair concern, and humor too.
I think if you can give somebody something in fantasy that they can't get in reality right now, I think that's great. Like, again, the photographers and directors and all these creators have so much content, and we have the channels to share it in a way that we've never had in our life, with social media. It's such a unique way. And if you can send it out and share it in a relevant way, then I don't think that's creepy. To Dawn's point, like, she likes getting those nice emails, and and Instagram is perfect for this.
Ladies, I know that this is going to be an annoying thing, and I'll remind you if we can't hear you, that there is an exceptional echo going on right now. So I'm again going to ask us all to hit that green mic button as we practice, so that we're not echoing our own controls. So when you're speaking, keep that green mic on, but when you're not speaking, let's click it off. That's on your panel on the side. It's the microphone icon right there. There. I think that it may be me who's the problem, by the way. So I'll do that, but if you guys can also try to do that, that'd be awesome sauce. Okay, so I want to move on to strategies. Many of us, I feel like, Wendy, you were saying this earlier, that we've weathered storms like this before. What are some of the strategies that worked then? What could work now? I know that that's extremely vague and open-ended, but I'm going to throw it at you and ask you if you can maybe expand on that.
Sure. I mean, we're in a really different situation than we've ever been in. For some of us, we're lucky we have jobs and they're going to continue to get paychecks and their health insurance is working. And for other people, they're terrified because they've just earned the last dollar they're going to earn in a while. So I think there's several levels that we have to survive on. One is just surviving, helping each other, being really good citizens and all of that, take care of your community kind of thing. I think there are get your ducks in a row things that we can do, which is all about working on your portfolio, working on future marketing pieces, working on business connections, all of that. But I think the other thing that, depending on your skill set, all of us have a skill set that's relevant outside of this industry. So as a producer, I'm pretty good at organizing things. I'm sure in the next couple of weeks, there are people who can use that help. Creative and visual people and artistic reps, you're also good at those things. Agency people, if you have extra time, if you're not raising 4 kids and working 80 hours a week like Dawn, which makes it really hard to be at home. But if you have time, there's community-based things we can do. How do we, while you're out on the street, if you're a shooter, shoot. If you have a family, shoot them. Be creative. Think back to when you were in school and you had no money and you still had to create. And so I think maybe we all repurpose a little bit, but we all have to recognize that in the past, anything that was really risky to our careers was just about us. This is about everybody. This is every single person you know, whether they work in a deli or whether they work in our industry. Everybody's in exactly the same position. So there is only one way that I know how we're going to get through it, which is just stop thinking only about yourself, recognize your place within the community, do everything you can to promote a social good, help people when they need it, and we'll get through it. I don't have any other knowledge to share.
No, I think that's really fair. There was a question that came in from Dana for Dawn on a past topic, but I think that it's a good one. For Dawn, since you are still estimating, are you building in long-term new safety protocols into those estimates?
Yeah, say it again. You broke up.
Can everybody mute panel-wise? So for Dawn, since you're still estimating, are you building in long-term new safety protocols into those estimates?
Yeah, I mean, when we're sending those estimates, we're sending them with like tons of stipulations and caveats. Not tons, but enough so that everybody knows if things happen, how we have to, what the plan of action is.
And this
Answering the question.
to the question that came in from one of our people who were, you know, I mentioned it in the earlier part that no one heard except our panel. So we got a question from someone who said, I just spoke with a photo assistant that I hire regularly. He was on a large motion stills shoot that canceled on Tuesday when the city revoked their permit. They'd already shot one day. The crew of 30 plus talent, producers, and crew were all sent home for shooting on day 2. He asked if he should build a production company for all of the days he was hired for, since that's common industry practice. I said that he should ask the producer, but it seemed like the production company should carry some kind of insurance that covered this. Wendy, I'd really love for you to start to speak on this. You have answered it earlier, and I would love for you to answer it for everyone listening.
I'm sorry, did you ask me, Wendy?
Yeah.
Okay. So it was very hard to hear you. You broke up a lot. So I'm gonna paraphrase this question. There's a person who was a photo assistant who was on a shoot. They were in the middle of a multi-day shoot. The shoot got canceled, and the photo assistant wants to know if they should, if they have the right to bill for the days that their job was canceled. And the second part of the question was, wouldn't force majeure kick in so that insurance pays? So one of the biggest misconceptions is that force majeure, which is another way of saying acts of God, is a kind of insurance that will pay for bad things that are no one's fault. In this particular case, after checking with agencies, insurances, and lots of other research, I can assure you that in almost no case will insurance pay for any kind of damages that happen as a result of coronavirus. So that's the first thing. So the second thing is, in the world that I live in, if a job is in the works and there's a cancellation, 100% cancellation fees are appropriate. My first question would be, didn't everybody kind of know that when they started shooting, if this happened, sometime last week? I would hope that the producer who produced this job has really good cancellation language within their contract or within their estimate. And if they don't, on the Facebook page that I created, there is AICP's language for cancellations due to the virus. And I encourage anyone to go look at it and add it to your estimates. But yeah, I fully believe that 100% cancellation is appropriate.
So one of the people listening in actually just let us know, thanks Ryan. ASMP has a great presentation right now on these coverages. Their legal counsel, Tom Madry, did a video on cancellations, et cetera. So I would encourage people to check out that resource for the answers to this. Okay, and so did anybody else, trying to get back to where we were, did anybody else have any thing to add in about what are some strategies that have worked in the past and what could work now in similar situations? Although I personally cannot remember a situation like this. But did anyone else have any strategies that they were thinking might be helpful in that regard? We're in that strategy section under the A, if you guys are following along on the outline. Heather, we can't hear you. Could you unmute?
Thank you. I can add a couple of things. I can remember back when the market crashed and nobody thought they were ever going to work again and clients weren't spending money on advertising. And the advice I was giving my photographers at that time, which is different than this time, but my advice then was we can't stop advertising, because if everyone else is stopping, that's a plus for us because our voice will be louder. So I suspect, as I said earlier, there are going to be brands that are doing the same thing. There are going to be photographers and directors that are going to be doing the same thing as well. I think it's very important to think about what we're going to do and how you're going to prepare yourself for the future and what comes next, and to create those alliances and collaborations with people that you are going to need help from, and you have conversations that are going to allow you to evolve what your productions look like in the future. So I got through 2008 with my photographers and my friends and my community and my relationships. It was a very different time then, but I suspect that those same things are going to carry us through now.
I have to remember to unmute myself. That's a great answer. Thank you, Heather. So the silver lining is my next question. And you know, I'm a Pollyanna, just gonna admit it right now, but I do want us to sort of think about the positives and if there are them and things like that. So what do you guys see as the biggest silver lining for content creators coming out of the pandemic in the short term and the long term? Kourtney, would you start us off on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the, I say great, I use that term loosely, but I think a beautiful thing is that we're going to be a stronger community and hopefully just more loving and giving to each other in terms of, you know, letting our egos go a little bit. I feel like sometimes as photographers, and whatever position we might have is, you know, sometimes egos get in our way, and this is a time to be there for everyone and each other and help where we can and lend support. And I think that's the most important thing right now. And, you know, touch base, like you were saying, with other people on your team, crew members, clients, all of that kind of stuff, and make sure that everybody's staying healthy mentally and physically right now, because that's the most important thing too, is our mental health. And I know one thing APA is doing is, before this whole thing even came up, is we're planning to focus on mental health later this spring. And if somebody needs help, let's help each other and make sure that we're all well.
I think that's so important, and I'm glad that you mentioned it. I think that we're all collectively having our panic moments and our stronger moments, and then being strong for our families and our kids and so on. But mental health is, under served in this country, and I think specifically now it's so important, which gets back to the whole be kind to everyone. But I'd love for everyone to weigh in on that question. Dawn, would you like to go next for me? And it's, what is the biggest silver lining that you see for content creators coming out of the pandemic in the short term and the long term?
Well, everyone learns how to wash their hands for 20 seconds, which is really important on sets because I see a lot of people not washing their hands. No, I'm just kidding. I think the silver lining is, it's a little bit what Kourtney said. I think I've been on like tons of group texts now with my team, and I think everybody's leaning on each other and talking more and like realizing the importance in all of this, right? The big picture is we all do lose a little sight of, like, we're all always used to saying yes, like Heather said, and we lose a little bit of insight on the humanistic side of things, right? Like, to be kind, we're all working hard. It's still a job, and we all have to still take care of each other. And I don't know if it's content creator or just us as humans, like, people are helping each other. I mean, I lived in New York on September 11th. I lived through Sandy. I lived through disasters, but they were more centralized and affected me healing a certain group of people in like the really drastic sense. I think this has affected every single one of us, and it will. I mean, it's not a point of if COVID's going to affect you, it's when it is, right? So I think it's going to change the way we all think, hopefully, at least for a long time, those of us who have lived through it so drastically, of like taking care of each other and always remembering what's important in all of it. As far as content creators, I think it gives us all something to look forward to. When everybody comes back to work, we will all be so happy to be together and be working. It's going to kind of spin the entire atmosphere of shoots and jobs and conference calls. Everyone's going to be really excited to like hug each other again and be kind to each other and go out to client meals on the 6th night when we've been together for 6 days. Everyone will be excited to do those things. And I think maybe it doesn't change the content, but it's going to maybe change the way we all view each other and see each other.
Wendy, can I ask you to chime in on that?
Sure. I think that a really important change is that we're starting to look at how interdependent we all are. And by paying attention to the idea that someone on a set could infect somebody else on a set, I think also brings, I think it's sort of like, brings a little bit more to the forefront. There are certain kinds of safety precautions that we are going to be needing to take going into the future. And I think that that's a good thing in terms of just keeping our crew safe. On a personal level, I think that a lot of people will be able to use this time to do things and learn things that maybe they have always been wanting to do. Like, I'm planning to take an online Italian class and maybe finally learn how to use Photoshop in a meaningful manner. So I think that, you know, it's important to sort of make some lists for yourself of things you could do when you're kind of quiet. And I think the lists are long, and I think it's really important to stay in touch with your colleagues. I think the silver lining for me is discovering an amazing group of colleagues, some of whom should be competitors who are now friends. And I feel that we'll be stronger for it.
Heather, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I've got 2 thoughts. One is, I think we're like a well-oiled machine, and we do things the same way because we've always done them that way. I think now is a really great time to not only push pause like professionally, to push pause professionally and rethink all of those processes. How do I create an email? What does it look like? How do I make my set safe? How do I talk to a client? Who do I call for things that I need? I mean, let's really rethink how we do things so that when we come back, we're stronger. And I think also culturally, we have been operating at a pace that has not been sustainable. I've been saying that for quite a long time. And I'm really I mean, although like everyone else here, I feel like I'm in this crazy busy mode, but there is this pause that goes along with what's happening right now. And I got a few emails from people that I checked in with yesterday who were saying, is it bad to say that I'm actually happy I'm home with my daughter all day and I'm helping her with her work and I'm not having to, I'm thinking about my work, but I'm actually like cuddled in here really happy. And I thought, no, that's not bad at all. Like, we need to find that space to be present for the people in our lives who we maybe haven't been able to be as present for because we're so caught up in what we normally do.
I think that's really well said, and I certainly am going through my grade goals on a daily basis in that regard. You know, I have 2 teenage sons who are going to be gone at some point really soon. So I don't know why I'm weeping, but that just made me feel. Anyway, so
If I could just say, I think one thing though that to be really mindful of is that this is going to have a really severe financial impact on every freelancer we know, panic level impact. And I think that is an opportunity for us also to reach out to people that we know who don't have steady incomes and see how we can help them, because dire straits and panic is what they'll be facing. Anyone without a full-time job and the support of an organization like a corporation is really going to panic. And so I think part of the silver lining is that those of us who are okay have the ability to help people who might not be.
Well, and I'd like to add 2 things to that. One of my photographers, Tim Tatter, told me yesterday that he's really feeling for his assistants because they get obviously paid by the job, they're freelance. And he had the idea of maybe selling some prints that he has and donating the money, giving the money to a portion of it or some of them, all of, I'm not sure what those are, but to his assistants. So as photographers or people out there, you can think of creative ways to maybe raise some money for the people who you surround yourself with that help you on your jobs. We sent out an email this morning saying that we're going to be selling collections of images that clients might need for stock. And we're going to try and find the crews that helped us on that. So if we can sell a collection of images, we're going to go back to the crew who helped us produce those images and try and give them some money as well. So there are creative ways that we could think about sharing in whatever income comes our way and helping and protecting the people that have helped us produce all along.
I think that's really important, and it really does dovetail us into my very last question for this this webinar, which is, what can people do to help our community? I think, Heather, you just said a really beautiful thing, and I love what Wendy, what you just said too. Dawn and Kourtney, I'd love to hear if you guys had any thoughts on this. Dawn, if you wouldn't mind starting.
What can I do in the community of art producers? I think it's important for us to keep talking. Like, I have a really big group that is amazing and kind of we're all like mind, but we've been talking about like staying positive, keep estimating, keep talking to our photographers every day, but also maintaining a level of, you know, everybody's worked really hard to get where they are, and we want to keep the standard of photography and productions at a really, really, really high level. And we don't want people to go into panic just right now and start undercutting each other or selling it shorter, because it's just you talk about crash, it's going to implode, right? Like, fees are going to be cut in 3/4, and we're trying to encourage like CGI houses and agents and photographers, like, don't fold. Like, let's get these estimates to be factual. Like, if you estimated on something 3 months ago, keep it consistent what it is 3 months ago, because we're going to come back from this and like, we don't want to change what we've worked 10 years to create. You know, it's like Heather said in 2008. Yes, that's what it is. And then, you know, you send me something now and then 3 months everything's fine and everyone's doing it again. Do you know how hard it is then for you to go back to where you were? It's like you've dug yourself in a hole. So we're trying to say like, hey, let's estimate this and let's put in what this really costs and what this usage entails, and let's keep positive, right? If we all start scrambling now, it's going to turn ugly, right? It's not just like the young kids that are going to be willing to do things for nothing, but it's going to be everyone, and then it just becomes a real rat race, I guess, you know. And so I think for us, it's like we should all, our producers, and we're keeping talking, we're texting each other, we're emailing each other, and we're trying to stay positive and keep everybody around us positive, because we're kind of setting the tone from what clients are saying, right? And what we're telling our clients is we want to postpone and we want to come in strong. We want to have the numbers and be ready to award and like proceed like we would normal. And again, we still have to make some concessions, like casting might have to be done different. How many people on set might have to be done different. Health concerns might have to be, you know, extra on set, but right now, a week, 2 weeks into this, we really, really, really want to hope that everyone does the right thing to get us out of this situation as healthy as possible.
I think that is a huge point. I'm so glad that you made it. Kourtney, would you like to chime in a little bit?
Yeah, I'd love to. So just circling back to Dawn, I was actually an art buyer years ago before I jumped over to photography. And the one big thing as an art buyer that I always strove to do was make things win-win for everyone, the client, the photographer, the agency. And I think, like Dawn said, is we don't want to take a step back. So we need to make it win-win for everyone. And I think having a podcast or a radio show like this is awesome because we can, gain consensus on a lot of things that people are already talking about in the industry, beyond just COVID-19. So I think we should still keep having those conversations in terms of things that I know I talk about with photographers and agents and art buyers in my community. So keep having these podcasts. This is going to be great because I think we can expand on so many different things. And then, like I was saying before, helping each other, helping our fellow photographers out. And APA Chicago, we're starting these Stay Connected groups where people, can come together in groups of 8 or less and have a hangout once or twice a week, meet up. We can talk about questions, concerns, and again, gain consensus. I think that's the thing, Wendy keeps talking about in terms of, putting things on pause. We all have said that here. So yeah, I think creating moments like that people can come together and voice opinions.
So I just got a question in from Sue, and it really speaks to what you just said, and I want to throw this one at Wendy. Can producers go a step further than this call and educate their photographers not to undercut each other to get work? I think that this is such a huge point, and I'd love for you to speak to it, Wendy.
I think it's a really important point. We can all join each other in a race to the bottom, which I am not going to do. Or we can do what Dawn said, which is respect the level that we have achieved as professional people and as a professional standard. And in the same way that you can have really low-level productions, or you can have productions where people are comfortable and they are safe, it's the same thing with photography. Listen, we live with an industry where the attitude always is, well, if I don't do it, somebody else will. And that's unfortunate. So, I think for any of the photographers who are out there, underbidding on a job just to get it only weakens your position, and it weakens the entire industry. And so anytime I'm going to be producing a job, I will be encouraging photographers to put in fair bids, fair rates, fair bids. Same thing for production costs, because the corollary to underbidding photographers' rates is asking producers to produce without enough money to produce a quality production. And, the cost of food doesn't change just because the budget's low. Airplane tickets, when we get to go on airplanes again. So maintaining a firm line that there's a standard, I think Dawn is right. So I won't allow the people I produce for to underbid. I won't be a part of it. And so I hope other producers will join me.
I'd love to touch on that really quickly, if you don't mind.
Enough.
Somebody. Whoa, what was that?
No one said that to you, Kourtney.
Stop,
No one said that.
stop.
I think they're telling me to.
Don't know where that voice came from. Whoever just said that, I don't know how you got in to the audio mode, but the okay enough, I'm hoping was for your dog. So
I don't know what that was.
Let's
I feel
go
like
back
I
to
shouldn't
Kourtney.
talk now. No, I was just gonna say in terms of production, my shoots are usually all about the production value. Like that's how I come to it. I have a producer.
Go lay down.
Hey, whoever's talking to their dog, I don't know how you're in the room or what is happening, but I need you to not do that anymore. Either mute, I don't know how you got where you are, but mute your microphone because we are all hearing you ask your dog to go lay down. Okay, back to you,
Okay.
Kourtney. I'm going to try to fix this. I'm so
Okay.
sorry. Oh, please.
Sorry. You know, production value to me is like super huge, and it's something I value. And I try to explain this to clients. I know my agent does, and my producer. And that's how I get that's how I make the images I make. If I didn't have a top-notch producer that knew how to run the show, you know, photographing kids like I do, we just wouldn't make it happen. So it's sort of like, if we can't have that you know, that quality budget to make it happen, it just isn't going to happen. So
Well, and things cost what they cost, right?
yeah,
Like,
they cost what they cost.
it's not going to change after this. If anything, things will be more expensive. We've all gone
Yeah.
to the grocery store in the last week.
Yeah.
That everything is marked up. I can't put a number in front of a client and say, hey, look at this. And then in 6 weeks be like, oh, I mean, it's $100,000 more than I
Yeah.
showed you. We still have to remember, you can cut your fees all you want. That's a personal thing. I can tell you where everybody else is and tell you what the expectations are. But like, to get a production bid that is completely not accurate, it reflects bad on everyone, not just you, but an agency producer. And some agency producers, you know, maybe it's all up to us to make those decisions. But also, I think it's just bad practices. Things cost what they cost. Like, locations aren't going to go from 10,000 a day to 2,500 because of COVID. If anything, it's going to cost more money because they're going to need to clean it more, wipe it down. You know, I think it just creates a lot of other implications that we need to think long term on, right? This is something that sadly we're all having to deal with now. But if we unite on it and say, listen, this is what things cost, and there are caveats to that, right? Like, if a location has now a new addendum that they need another extra cleaning service because after this they want that, then those are the only changes. Like, we can't just say, you know, locations are going to slice their fees and models are going to slice their fees, and it's really not going to happen, right?
No.
If anything, we want to we've worked so hard, all of us, to be where we are and get all of us on set doing the right thing, paying the right fees, paying the right cost. And I think this could it just creates bad practice.
I think we should be ready to see a line item for safety something. I think that's going to be, and I think that's going to be a new thing for producers to be responsible for. I anticipate price gouging to continue. So if I have to pay $761 for alcohol gel, I'll have to think about whether we are going to have alcohol gel on set. But I think you're right. And I think Dawn is right that we can't promise to produce. I think everybody is right. In fact, we shouldn't be producing subpar level work, because to Kourtney's point, for Kourtney to have the creative environment that she needs to produce successful images, she needs a production environment behind her that supports her and gives her the sort of robust ability to move within that production. If she doesn't have it, and then that creates production stress, then we don't get the images we want. We have unhappy clients. Nobody's eating food. Everybody's miserable. And so I think it's really important that as an entire industry, from the PA all the way up to the agency account people, that we're staying on board with this message that we will come back and give you 100%, but we need it back from you too, and we can't do it at 25%. Nor should we.
Yeah.
I think super important points. And we did it. we got through all of our topics and so on, and even took some live questions that I was trying to pay attention to. I just cannot thank you ladies enough. I think that you're all super smart. I want to give you all a hug, which of course, you know, social distancing. Yeah, elbow. There you go. Yeah, I mean, I just couldn't be more thrilled. I want to continue these conversations. I know that we're gonna do more of these webinars. I think that they're super important to have and to continue, and hopefully I can have some of you guys back together or in different versions and so on. We're going to start talking about what that calendar looks like and so on. And so anyone listening, we're going to start talking about that calendar and so on. And you know, if you're here, you're going to be on our mailing list. Again, you're going to get a recap of this webinar in about 24 hours. I believe it goes out the following day. It takes time for the, I don't know, stuff to be put together and rendered, I suppose. And so you'll be getting that. And just thank you. Thank you. I just couldn't thank you all enough, really.
Thank you, Heidi. This has been great. I hope it was informative, and I hope people walked away with some solutions and some ideas, and or maybe a newer sense of calm that can give them the presence of mind to start thinking, being less reactive and more proactive about how they're going to move forward. I was telling somebody earlier, my panic doesn't start to set in until about 2 o'clock now. So hopefully we gave that gift to some other people that they can, you know, go into their weekend with feeling a little bit more in control.
Mine is every day at 5, apparently.
Or 3 in the morning. It actually really sets in at 3 in the morning.
So just words to wise, don't go shopping when you're in that mode, because then you come home with kindling.
No.
Thank you all. I can't thank you enough for taking the time, and we're going to do this again. So Dawn and Wendy and Kourtney and Heather, you guys are my dream dates, and I'm super glad that I got to spend this morning into the afternoon with you.
Thank you so much.
for inviting
Thanks,
us.
ladies. Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye.
You need us to hang up?
I feel like